make a board game style spinner in Storyline that feels like it spins into motion. Let's build it. Before we start, make sure you have 2 arrow images on your slide. Keep one as your regular static arrow and use the other to convert into a dial. That way, you'll always have a clean arrow to work with. Let's start by converting one of the arrows into a dial. Select it, go to Insert, choose Dial, and then Convert to Dial. Now open the variable panel and rename the default dial variable to simply arrow. With the dial selected, go to the Design tab and set the rotation to 360. The start and initial values should be 0, the end value 30, and the step can stay at 1. Rotate the green handle so the arrow points straight up and center it on the wheel. Next, create a variable called spinning. This is a true or false variable, and we'll set its default to true so the first spin works right away. Now it's time to set up the animation layers. Create the first layer and call it Spin 1. Copy the wheel and the extra arrow from your base layer, then paste them into Spin 1. Adjust and center them on the slide. And then go to Animation to add a spin animation to the arrow for 0.5 seconds. Shorten the timeline to half a second. Once that's set, duplicate the layer and rename it Spin 2. Back on the base layer, we'll create a trigger so the Spin 1 layer appears whenever the arrow variable changes. Add a new trigger. Show Layer, Spin 1, when variable changes, arrow. Now add an if condition. In the Conditions section, set it to run only if arrow equals 5 and spinning is true. In other words, the spin will only trigger when the user drags the arrow to 5 and the spinner is armed. Back on Layer Spin 1, we need a new trigger to set the spinner variable to false. Create a trigger. Adjust variable, set spinning to false. When the timeline starts on this layer, this prevents retriggers while the spin is running. Next, we need to move to the next layer as soon as the wheel's spin animation ends. This second layer will also have the spin animation, keeping the illusion of a longer spin. Create a trigger. Show Layer, Spin 2 when the timeline ends. Now copy this Show Layer trigger and paste it into Layer Spin 2. Edit the trigger so it says Hide Layer instead of Show. Then create another trigger. Adjust variable, set arrow to a random number between 1 and 30 when the timeline ends on this layer. This randomizes the final position on the base wheel and gives it a natural landing spot. Finally, return to the base layer for the reset triggers. Create the trigger to reset our dial by putting in Adjust variable, set arrow to 0 when the user clicks Cards. Then create one more trigger. Adjust variable, set spinning to true when the user clicks Cards. Now remove the extra arrow. That's it. Preview and test. Drag the arrow slightly. The dial hits 5. The spin layers run, and the arrow lands on a random value. One note, if you drag too fast, the dial may skip past 5 and the spin won't fire. If that happens, just drag again. You now have a fully working spinner that feels natural and interactive. Thanks for watching and happy building in Storyline.